Hey, football fans, our Ultimate Draft Kit at ultimatedraftkit.com is the #1 tool used last year to bring home championships in fantasy football. Right now, you can get it for pre-order pricing of only $25. That's all awesome, but did you know that the first piece of that is released in only a week? Our rookie rankings will be up early if you pre-order. So pre-order now at ultimatedraftkit.com.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from Draft.com Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Let's have a draft.
Oh, if only it was tonight. It could be tonight. When are you listening?
The miracle of podcasts. You can listen whenever you want.
Yeah, it could have been last week.
I don't generally recommend waiting. Like, we do enough shows to where I wouldn't save them up. I wouldn't DVR them for later. It doesn't work as well in fantasy football podcasting.
No, you want it day of.
Yeah. Although, if you wanted to go back and re-listen to me talk about how good Todd Gurley was going to be last year, you can do that. That would be like the hits, though. That'd be like listening to the hits. I've got so many. Welcome back to...
So says he.
It's amazing I don't get showered with compliments from Jason and Mike. How you guys doing?
I was doing all right until that Todd Gurley nonsense.
You're not proud of me, Mike?
I was proud until you had to showboat at this point.
Of all the people...
Look, it's
at this table. You should be proud of me for showboating.
I never recommend gloating on any of your accomplishments.
Welcome to the Rookie Show. It is Tuesday. I'm
serious. I would never recommend you.
Yes, that is
good piece of advice.
That is a nice double standard policy you had. April 24th, we do have an NFL draft this week, and it's going to be a good one. It's going to be exciting, going to be fun. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of craziness. Today's the Rookie Show. We're going to run through the rookies of significance at the various positions, players we really like, names that you need to be aware of so that you can enjoy Thursday with a fantasy football context.
And Friday, and maybe even Saturday.
Well, yes, and well beyond, because you want to know the big names, you want to know who we like, you want to know who we don't like, and the fits for these players, the teams that we think maybe suit them best. We're going to talk about that on Thursday as we get into that'll be right pre-draft. I mean, that'll be right before the NFL draft. So we'll get into that. We have Matt Harmon on the show today.
I would recommend listening to that show immediately.
Yes. You're going to have a small window. Plan your Thursday right now. You got the NFL draft in the evening.
Yes.
And you've got the fantasy footballers in the morning. That's a great day.
I agree.
It's the best.
So the rookie prospects on the show today, we'll get you aware of the names, and we'll kind of take the temperature in the room about these players. Do you like Saquon, Guice? That's not the one that I think anybody's going to disagree on.
Yeah.
But speaking of rookies and combines and those type of things, Jason, you kicked off last week with some workouts of your own. Is that not?
Yes,
true?
This is true. It's not quite the
Hashtag
combine.
year of health?
Yeah, it's not quite the combine that we performed a few years ago. But yeah, I'm trying to get in shape. I am down 5 pounds.
Oh, how much of that?
Which is half of 1%. I'm a big man.
Let me ask you this, though. How much of that weight loss was from you vomiting at your personal trainer evaluation?
At least a pound. Yeah,
we haven't shared that story.
Have we?
No.
We've shared it
talked
on a couple
on
different
the
avenues.
Footcast.
Yeah.
Did we mention it on the Footcast?
Yeah, if you're over at jointhefoot.com, thank you for your support. We did share that story, but yes, I do need to be shamed everywhere. So it
was just more entertaining because I told Mike, Jay, let me just set the stage. You can continue. Because I was in the office, you weren't here yet, and you were going to your personal training evaluation, which is supposed to be some measurements, take your weight.
Just see where I'm at.
It's a set of baseline. And then I told Mike, I can't wait to see Jason come into the office today. And Mike's like, why? It's just the eval. And I go, I don't know, Mike. So how'd they go?
Yeah, it went. They wanted to see where I'm at, and they found out it's not a good place.
You gave everything you had.
That is true. You can't say
inside and out.
That trainer cannot think. I think he gave 50% effort. No, I went all out, and then it all went out.
I guess we did post that on Instagram.
Is that what going all out means?
For some.
Did you go all out today, son? Yeah. Oh, you threw up? No. Oh, you didn't go all out then.
I've had coaches in sports growing up that I'm pretty sure that's how they define going all out.
Yeah.
So you can see a video of Jason falling to the ground on Instagram.com/fantasyfootballers. The website's thefantasyfootballers.com. The Twitter @theFFballers. We're on YouTube. And jointhefoot.com is the community. So here's the quick question of the day. Along with all this rookie hype, the NFL schedule was released, was announced, was released. Now we know what to expect. Guys, any initial fantasy football takeaways from the NFL schedule being released?
My top takeaway, the final bye week of the season is week 12.
Thank goodness.
We celebrate
It's
this.
been worse before.
NFL, thank you so much. Not only are the playoffs completely untainted as they were a couple years ago, but even the final week of the season, where there are a lot of times that's a must-win situation, and people get hosed where a player, a star player they were counting on, just happened to be on a bye that week. So I think it's tremendous, and fantasy footballers around the world should celebrate that week 12 is the final bye week.
Yeah. For me, with the opening schedule, I went and I looked at the streaming positions because the opening schedule matters a lot for them. If you're a quarterback or a tight end, and I don't plan on rostering the one guy all season, but I'm going to play whoever has a good schedule, I care about the opening, which got me off of Jameis Winston. I had previously thought, based on where he's being drafted, what I think he's going to do on the season, I liked him, but I don't like his opening schedule. I shifted more. I really like Stafford, Bortles,
Why don't you read Winston's early schedule?
Because I don't have it in front of me. That's
at
why.
New Orleans.
Oh, it is in front of me. Look
at New Orleans versus Philly versus Pittsburgh, at Chicago, and then a bye week.
Yeah, and a lot of people might not think that sounds like the worst schedule in the world, but if you're just talking about play level passing efficiency for quarterbacks, New Orleans and Philadelphia were awesome last year, and I don't see any reason why their defense would change based on how this offseason's gone. Pittsburgh and Chicago aren't that great, and then you go to a bye. So I'm not a huge fan on Winston, and I'll throw out one other thing. I absolutely love the Ravens. If you're looking for a D early on, their opening schedule's great.
The Saints have a great opening 2 weeks. They're going to get off to a fast start. They're at home against Tampa, then they're at home against Cleveland. The thing that stuck out to me is I'm a big Pat Mahomes fan. I think he's got a lot of potential. It ain't looking nice for Pat Mahomes to start the season fantasy-wise. He has to go on the road, first of all, the first 2 weeks. Chargers, Pittsburgh. Then he plays San Fran, Denver, Jacksonville, at New England. The Denver and New England games on the road. Oof. Jacksonville's trouble. So those
San
first
Francisco's
6
in
games. Yeah, I mean, those first 6 games are going to be interesting. Yeah, he'll be at home against San Francisco. Maybe that's how, it's not that he cannot perform. It's just early impressions.
Yeah.
Doesn't look too great. Definitely check out the website for there are articles going up every single day. If you just can't get enough fantasy football, if 1 hour of this show isn't enough, go check out these articles. There's a great one by Matt Okada, one of our staff writers. 10 fantasy football insights. Very, very good. So you'll see some of these notes about the schedule in there as well. And we'll have another show on Thursday with best possible team fits for some of these rookies. Let's talk news.
News and notes from around the league.
Brooks is back, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
He asked us to, did you want to sing a song or something when you came back? Is that what you said?
Exactly what I requested.
I think he said, don't let me speak. He came back. He brought a cold back with him.
Yeah. It's like, go back to Michigan.
Yeah. All right. We talked about Dez Bryant last week, obviously the release from the Cowboys. We do have news about Willie Snead signing with the Ravens. He was signed to a 2-year, $10.4 million offer sheet. The Saints didn't match it. The Ravens now have Willie Snead. So let's talk about this from two sides. One, does Willie Snead have any relevance? Is there any interest there in fantasy?
There's no interest from me because his skill set, I don't think, is what the Ravens have been doing recently. I mean, if you go back and look at where Torrey Smith, performed well for the Ravens, you could say, oh, well, that's maybe a good role for Willie Snead, and not really, because that's not what Joe Flacco and the Ravens have been doing the last couple of years. I don't think it's a great fit, but I would like to congratulate you, Willie Snead. Getting a 2-year, $10 million contract, that's pretty good considering, some of the other wide receivers we've seen.
The Ravens wide receiver core is going to be very interesting. It's a complete turnover at the starter position with Crabtree, John Brown, and Willie Snead. By the end of the year, this could turn out to be an actual very good wide receiver core. I think that
even after they blew it with Ryan Grant.
Yeah, well, that's a contract decision type of thing. But Michael Crabtree.
It's also a joke, Mike.
Oh,
Ryan Grant's not highly acclaimed.
That's very true. But Crabtree's a huge upgrade for them. If John Brown and Willie Snead can put it together, both of them have separate issues. We don't know what happened with Willie Snead.
Still got Rashaad Penny.
Like I said, the starting 3 wide receivers for the Baltimore Ravens already talked about it. So they are not immediately, besides Crabtree, they are not immediately fantasy intriguing. But hopefully by the end of the season, these 3 guys can really improve that passing offense. So I have some faith.
So you think there'll be a different quarterback then?
Oh.
Take that, Joe.
What?
He's been all over Joe Flacco over the last 6 months. I don't know why.
Joe Flacco.
He just decides Joe Flacco stinks. They've had no wideouts.
He's done.
He's won a Super Bowl, and he's done apparently.
Yep.
Go
grab you some Nick Foles.
I don't think he's.
Goodness.
He's won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's a fair point. He's got the Super Bowl
You're
ring.
flipping on me, Mike?
I just feel like that's the only thing really in his corners. He won that Super Bowl that year.
It's a strong point.
I love Super Bowls. Wish my team could get one.
The Giants have released Brandon Marshall.
Yes, and that's
when do the Ravens sign him is the real question.
Maybe the Ravens or Raiders.
Yeah,
the Raiders need to grab Brandon Marshall. The move,
Gruden is just licking his chops.
The timing of
I remember him,
Brandon Marshall being released right after Dez Bryant was released it led some people to connect Dez Bryant to the Giants.
It's my odds-on favorite now. Now that the Ravens,
really your favorite?
Now that the Ravens are out. Well, not my favorite by way of fantasy relevance for Dez.
But you believe they will sign him.
My odds-on favorite to actually land Dez Bryant. I'm fairly certain Dez Bryant's willing to take less money to go and stay in the NFC East. There was some video of him and Odell Beckham Jr. working out together. I expect that marriage to happen.
I'm expecting Dez Bryant won't be signed before the draft. It would be this close to the draft process. I think it would be a silly move for a team to dump a bunch of money into him, see if you get your guy or not, and then grab Dez.
Did we get a chance to talk about Cameron Meredith to the Saints last week?
No, we have no. We mentioned that they had the tender. Yeah,
Brooks went out of town, and we pre-recorded some stuff, so it's hard to know exactly. I don't think we debated that. So at the time, the Bears. Well, now we know they did not match the 2-year, $10 million offer sheet.
Yeah, as expected, the Bears gambled and lost on this one. Simply because I think Cameron Meredith was worth the shot at a 1-year, $3 million deal. If they had tendered him at a second-round level, I don't know if he's worth 2 years for $10 million just because of the injury. The last time we saw Cam Meredith playing, he was excellent. So if he is actually going to be fully recovered at some point this season, that's a huge win for the Saints.
I think it's possible for both sides to have won in this arrangement. If you gamble and lose on the Meredith, inexpensive, keep him there. I mean, you got to realize they signed Allen Robinson, they signed Trey Burton,
yeah,
and they
Taylor
have
Gabriel,
but they still have. I know you're going to laugh at me, We have an autographed mini helmet in the back. They still have Kevin White.
Wait, you're clowning on Rashaad Penny.
No, I'm just saying they still have.
Those are twins. Those
Kevin
guys
White
were,
I mean, he's even worse because he was a higher draft pick than Perryman was. I'm just reminding you that he is there. So there may be some, cost benefit of not overpaying Meredith if you believe in what you've paid for in free agency and what you already have. I think it works out for both teams. Meredith should be good for Drew Brees and company in New Orleans, and they could afford to bring in another guy, and the Bears can move on. So what else is going on? Geronimo Allison, he's been signed to a 1-year deal. He was exclusive rights free agent. Same with Alex Collins. Joe Mixon, Mike.
Love it.
What's going on with Joe Mixon?
Joe Mixon has done the weight cut, and as you know, if you listen to the show, I love when running backs cut weight, and I like when wide receivers put on weight. We have seen so many successful transitions.
Is Jason a wide receiver is the real question.
Because I'm losing weight? I'm
do
trying
you say, do I like that?
Well, I was going to say, did you like, would he have made a good wide receiver based on?
See, it's a shame.
I've seen him run.
I'm an offensive lineman, and so this is not good. I'm going the wrong direction.
But running backs, it just helps them imagine, or not imagine, but think back to Le'Veon Bell when his first year in the league, he honestly his yards per carry was low. He looked a little bit like a plotter. Loses a bunch of weight and completely reshapes his game. I'm not calling for Joe Mixon to turn into Le'Veon Bell, but it is interesting that Mixon was getting several Le'Veon Bell comps coming into the draft process last year.
If possible, I'd like to retroactively apply his weight loss to last year.
And get some points?
And get some points back. It would have really, really helped. No, it's a good thing. He's going to have every opportunity. I think it helps a player like him stay healthy as well. I mean, you have the opportunity to lose a few pounds. You're going to be catching the ball. He was already one of the most efficient out of the backfield catching the ball. We'll see what we got with Joe Mixon. How about this news? Deontay Foreman, one of the more hyped off-season running back potential guys in Texas, could begin the season on the pup.
I do have it on good authority that this came from a news reporter named Shamar Schmiller.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So I don't know if we can trust the news or not.
Yeah, as a Lamar Miller or a Shamiller.
That's the reporter.
Dynasty owner.
Do you think NFL players ever
leak news to try to keep their
help
contracts?
themselves out?
Their agents do, I'm sure. But obviously, if Deontay Foreman's recovery timeline is looking like it's not the beginning of the year, that bodes very well for Lamar Miller being kept.
It does.
Which, I mean, it's so funny the range of outcomes here, because one range of outcome is Lamar Miller was going to get cut and isn't even a part of the Texans organization because Deontay Foreman's back. The other is he gets the shot to be the running back with Watson, and when he was playing with Watson, he was actually a top 10 running back, looked good on film. So maybe he ends up he's still only 26 years old, I believe, Lamar Miller.
He's been 26 for 5-6 years now. It's also possible he's cut and somebody like C.J. Anderson's purchased at half the price and then has relevance because
don't get me sweaty.
Because Deontay Foreman could end up on the pup. I'm just picturing Lamar Miller like DMing or like posting on Deontay Foreman's wall like, hey, man, so sorry, get better. And he's like, what's wrong? I don't know what's wrong.
That's a tough
And Lamar
break.
Miller's like, yeah, tough break, man. Hope you make it back by week 5. He's like, I'm fine. All right, Greg Olson says his injured foot's completely healed.
They always do.
Yeah.
Well,
They always do.
It's as good of a report as he's allowed to have.
Yep.
Do you guys make anything of the Gronk Brady news?
No, everything has Gronk and Brady coming back this year.
Janikowski is now a Seahawk. There you go.
Ooh,
and then good friend of the show, Nick Mangold, who once came on and talked about Bilal Powell.
NFL Football Center.
He has retired. NFL Football Center has retired.
Look,
congratulations to you on a great career, Nick.
Foot Clan, have you ever been interviewing an NFL player and right before you introduce them, your brain tells you, no, he's not actually on the Jets, he's on a different team?
Nope.
Have
you had that happen, Mike?
I have personally experienced that very distinct situation.
Yeah. If you were to somehow go all the way back to that interview, I believe that's how he's introduced Nick Mangold, the NFL Football Center.
No, professional.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Professional NFL Center, which is accurate.
Factually accurate. I love it.
Oh, my goodness. White man, Nick Mangold, coming on the show. Tall white man.
I panicked.
Yes, I know. All right, we're going to get into the rookies. Before we do that, I want to thank today's sponsor, SeatGeek. Look, we just, here in the studio, we grabbed some tickets for Jimmy G. No, not Jimmy Garoppolo, Jim Gaffigan.
You're darn right.
And we use SeatGeek to do it. They're the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to every type of live event. There's nothing quite like seeing that favorite performer. So this isn't just sports. This isn't just going and seeing your NFL team, which they're awesome at because you get that map and you get to see the color-coded best price in the stadium. But you can use it for musicians. You can use it for comedy, whatever it is. We have it on our phones. It's the easiest way we know how to shop for tickets. They're designed to make your ticket buying experience as quick and as easy as possible. And so, like I said, they grade everything. They make it simple, every single type of ticket. And best of all, our listeners, you get $20 off your first purchase. So the first time you use it, you're already going to pay less than anybody else. Just download the SeatGeek app, enter the promo code FOOTBALLERS today. That's promo code FOOTBALLERS for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase.
Want to thank Pristine Auction for sponsoring today's show. Pristine Auction, the best sports memorabilia website in the entire world. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where I always go when I'm looking to get some autographed gear. My son attended a Larry Fitzgerald football camp the other day, and he was so pumped. Now I'm scouring. I'm scouring for that signed Larry Fitzgerald because you know what? He can't have debts. That thing's in my office. He cannot have it. Maybe someday he'll get his own. And you can get all kinds of great deals, way cheaper than you could possibly imagine. Just recently, a signed Le'Veon Bell Steelers jersey, $78. DeAndre Hopkins signed Texan jersey, $95. A signed Adam Thielen Vikings football for $58. The signatures are always authentic. We are getting tons of the Foot Clan basically every single day reaching out on Twitter saying thank you so much for pointing me to Pristine. And they're also a little bit upset because then they end up buying a whole bunch of stuff because it's so freaking awesome and they have new stuff.
Their significant other is generally the more upset one.
That's what it is.
They're stoked.
But there's new stuff every single day. Check it out. PRISTINE auction.com. Make that completely free account. And when you do, let them know that the Fantasy Footballers sent you.
Rookie Review.
Yeah! So good.
I like that drop. That's a good one, Mike.
Because it may remind you of your childhood.
Sometimes you got
I'm not saying, just saying.
at some point you're going to have to sit down. I'll give you some tips on the guitar.
Oh, I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll help you out. It was a little off there, but it's fine. It's fine.
Not my tempo.
We'll go on. All right, we're going to start talking about the running backs before we bring in Matt Harmon of NFL.com fame, of Reception Perception fame, and most importantly, of UltimateDraftKit.com fame.
Yes.
We'll bring him on. He is the master of wide receiver, and we'll get his perspective on a number of these rookie names. But I do want to start in the running back area. And, guys, before we jump into running backs, tell me a little bit about what you want our listeners to understand about these names. I mean, you guys have been – Jason just pulled out what looks to me like an old-timey diary.
Mm-hmm. It's my rookie diary.
He's got his rough draft of his novel in there.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the man on the island sitting there writing notes, and I've been around you, and you have been constantly watching film for a long time now, with your eyes closed, is what you said on the show the other day. But what do you want him to get out of this segment?
Well, we're bringing up names which are kind of the consensus top picks for the upcoming NFL draft. Want to highly stress the most important thing for an NFL player's fantasy outlook is where they are drafted and when they are drafted. That will shift our rankings tremendously. We can fall in love with guys during this scouting process and really hope that they end up as a third-round pick. We hope they end up as Kareem Hunt, where a team trades up to grab him in the third. But what an NFL team says about these players by using their draft capital, that's the most important thing when it comes to actual fantasy football rankings.
Yeah, so what we're doing right now is just trying to illustrate who they are so you know coming in.
Have fun watching the draft.
Have fun watching the draft. See what we think before they have a team. Because some of these guys I am super excited about that I could throw in the garbage if they go to the wrong team.
Yeah, and you probably have your opinions out there too. And if you combine them with what you hear today, then maybe you'll be going into the draft rooting for one team and one player and that match made in heaven and see if you can dominate that rookie draft. If you're in a dynasty league, like Jason said, we're going to throw those rookie rankings into the Ultimate Draft Kit here soon. So let's start at the running back position.
Running backs.
Now, I've heard of this guy, Saquon. Tell me more about this guy. Barkley?
Saquon Barkley.
Is this Sir Charles?
Never heard of him.
You know who he is. He's projected to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, possibly as early as number 2 to the New York Giants.
Possibly as early as number 1.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I suppose that is also correct. He is an absolute monster of the man. The man is what I heard. I just let you go. I stand by it, but I stand by it because of his combine performance. If you didn't know who Barkley was, you're not paying attention yet to the incoming rookie class. You could not escape Barkley mania after he essentially told the NFL the combine needs to be renamed to the annual Saquon Barkley NFL Combine.
Yeah, it was an impressive performance. 29 on the bench, 4.4 in the 40, and kind of validated and even re-emphasized his dominance at the position.
He weighs over 230 pounds, and he ran a 4.4.
I mean, he
Life
is
goals,
unbelievable.
Jason.
This is 1 out of 2, not bad. I weigh over 230.
But you don't have the 4.4.
Not yet. Working on it. Here's the deal with Saquon.
Step one.
It's the perfect combination of everything that you need, right? Before the combine, he was already the clear-cut best incoming rookie. I really value receptions in a college production. If you're over 20, that means you were used in the passing game in college. You know, his sophomore year, he had 28 receptions.
Which would
that's a great year.
I'll take it, yeah.
Last year, he had 54. He was 1 away.
I'm really sad that he didn't have one more.
And he was excellent. Lines up everywhere. Great at pass protection. There's, people nitpick over what the weakness is. But when you've got a guy who's that good on film, that good in the stats, then he goes and outperforms the history of the combine, and you already know that his draft capital will be top 7 picks in the NFL draft.
At worst.
I'm just saying guaranteed, locked and loaded. He'll be in the top 7. I mean, he will be everyone's 101. This is the only guy we don't have to wait till after the draft to know. It doesn't matter where he goes. He's the 101.
This is the Zeke Elliott. This is the Leonard Fournette of last year, where there will be production from Saquon. Now, there may be a better team to provide you that top 5 type of fantasy production, but he's going to go 101 in all rookie drafts.
Yes, he will.
Agreed.
And he should.
Moving on.
All right, let's talk about Derrius Guice. What do you guys think about Derrius Guice coming out of LSU? Ran a 4.49, another well-rounded type of prospect, somebody that I think the majority of draft evaluators would say he finds the right team, he's going to be a bell cow type of guy.
Yeah, it's very possible. He has, unfortunately, only 18 receptions last year, but that's simply a
LSU.
It's a product of the offense. They don't use running backs that way, so he's shown flashes that he can be that pass catcher. I think that Derrius Guice will go in the back of the first round. That's what I believe NFL teams are, how they are valuing Derrius Guice, which would then make him a pretty compelling argument for the 102 in rookie picks. Jay, how do you feel about Guice?
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of that. The one thing that
nasty.
hurts is that he's not a pass catcher. And yeah, you can say maybe they'll use him. He's got the skills but wasn't used, but it's much more rare for that to happen. Usually a guy that doesn't catch a lot of balls in college doesn't catch a lot of balls in the NFL. So he gets that knock against him. To me, he is a poor man's Leonard Fournette.
Poor man.
A poor man's Leonard Fournette. And the reason why, if we take health out, I think that he runs a lot like Leonard Fournette in the sense, not by looking, but violent. Crushes guys north south, going to try to pick up those tough yards. except he's not as big and strong. That's all it is to me. He's a little quicker, but I got no problems with the speed of Leonard Fournette. So he's a poor man's Leonard Fournette to me.
All right. Do you want to move on? Let's talk about Sony. Let's talk about Sony Michel.
Yes. So and Sony Michel.
Did you add a little?
No, and a little flair in there.
Yeah.
So it's Sony Michel. No, no, but it is. Oh yeah, did you put it in?
Believe you've met my fitness consigliere, Michel.
He's my fitness consigliere. Yeah, Mr. Sony
I
Michel.
saw you drop it in there, so I didn't know whether I should push the button or not. But look, Georgia running back. I want to know your thoughts about Michel in general, and I want to know your thoughts about this receiving production that went from okay in 2015
Right.
to we're not going to catch the ball anymore.
Yeah, it was the drop in production is interesting now.
Because most people think he can catch the ball and
Oh,
he'll
no,
be able
he's-
to do that at the
he
next
can.
level.
He is
at an above average level.
He is a great pass catcher, in my opinion. I love Sony Michel. The reason I was hesitant to say that Derrius Guice is the 102, which a lot of fantasy industry people have Guice locked at the 102. Sony Michel is right up there for me if he ends up on the right team. I think he can be a full 3-down guy. He was a monster at Georgia with his teammate Nick Chubb, who will also go very early in
They
NFL
combined
drafts.
for 31 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, they were incredible.
And Michel was that's what I'm going to
Yes,
that's what I'm going to
yes,
refer.
from now
Michel.
on it's Michel.
Michel.
Absolutely. Sony Michel.
Believe you've met my fitness consigliere, Michel.
Michel.
Yes, for sure.
What impressed me was he put up 1,227 yards on 156 carries. That's Alvin Kamara type explosion. That's Alvin Kamara type just performance. That's so impressive. Do you like him more than Chubb?
I do because more
As a next level prospect?
more well-rounded. I, like Jason, have a strong emphasis on pass catching and his feet, his ability to stop and start and cut, plus his burst. Sony Michel is fantastic. He's my top name that I'm watching from this group for the running back position.
Yeah, and it's funny. We were talking about this before the show. Michel is not that to me, and
Yeah.
I know he is to a lot of people. I'm much further down on Michel than most people are. I believe that what I saw. He's very fast, and he's got a lot of skills that could translate after the draft. If he ends up going high to a good fit NFL team, he'll be one of my highest rated rookie draft picks. But prior to the draft, I think a lot of what happened with him was just big wide open holes that he was able to sprint through, and he's very fast. There were plenty of opportunities where I thought he would make something happen where he didn't on his own. I know Graham Barfield, who does the yards created,
Yes.
he likes him. I was surprised because when I really watch the games and I'm watching every snap and I see Chubb and I see Michel, I have some hesitations as to how good he is.
Are you concerned with the 4.54, Mike?
No, this is a situation of
Burst versus top speed?
Yeah, exactly. And watching him play,
He's fast when he plays.
He's faster than that.
Well, let's talk about Mark Ingram to the Kamara here.
Yeah.
Nick Chubb, bruising for reception. Nick Chubb went out there and crushed it last year in Georgia as the Thunder to Michel's Lightning.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
But you like Michel more as a next level prospect. What is Chubb's? Does he project as a Jay Stu type of prospect to you?
Yeah, maybe Jay Stu.
Jay Stu coming out of college.
Yeah,
That's what I not late
horse.
Jay Stu.
Jay Stu on the Giants or Nick Chubb.
Late Jay Stu is more of the in the rocking chair in front of Cracker Barrel Jay Stu.
It's a decently fair comp. I love Nick Chubb as well. On the edge, to me, watching him breaking down the film, he looks so fast, but he doesn't force his runs to the outside.
I just pulled up playerprofiler.com just to see the comparable. I had not
For
looked
Chubb?
this up for Nick Chubb.
Jonathan
Do you know what
Stewart?
it is? Jonathan Stewart.
Hey, that's why I said it's very, very fair.
That's who came to mind to me when I watched him in those tree trunk thighs.
Yeah, well, and he's back. Nick Chubb had a devastating injury earlier on in his career. He appears to be completely back. Like I said, just incredibly fast and incredibly strong. If Saquon Barkley didn't do what he did at the Combine, people would be freaking out about what Nick Chubb did because it was pretty comparable.
Yeah, if Nick Chubb was a pass catcher, he'd be up in that tier.
Which
Nick Chubb,
his rookie year, he did have the 18 receptions.
Yeah, I mean, but he does not translate to me at all as a pass catcher. The team that will draft him is drafting him as a first or second down guy, a touchdown guy. I like Chubb significantly more than Michel. I think he is
really
so
I'm never going to not
strong.
laugh when I hear Michel now.
He is so strong, and I do think that he will benefit greatly by if he goes to a team with a good offensive line that can give him that first step, then he becomes really hard to tackle. I like Chubb quite a lot.
We'll talk about possible destinations for these guys more on Thursday, but I would love to see him go to a team like Houston with an established offense there. Ronald Jones, John Kelly, couple of polarizing figures at the running back position. I've been forthright with my, I guess, hype about Ronald Jones. My excitement about Ronald Jones: 1,550 yards last year, 19 touchdowns. I do have concerns about the fact we didn't get to see, by way of numbers, that top speed because he pulled his hamstring in the 40 on the official NFL Combine day. He went back and ran it at college, saying he's 85%, and pulled the number down. But you didn't see 4.4 speed from him in those evaluations, and he is a smaller running back. Now you look at him and you look at a guy like Sony Michel, and you say, okay, well maybe the size difference is comparable, but you haven't seen the pass catching production from Ronald Jones. So you have some people that I've seen go as far as to say this is the next Chris Johnson. This is the guy that's going to go burst onto the scene, and you're talking big-time touchdown plays, 60-plus yard plays.
And on the other side, I've got him as my number 8 running back in this draft class, which is very low compared to where people have him.
I was ready to argue with you about saying that Sony Michel had wide open lanes. Ronald Jones, on his highlight runs, he could drive a Cadillac through those holes.
The thing is Ronald Jones is electric in open space. I mean, he's absolutely unbelievable. You get Ronald Jones in open space, he's great. But he's only 205 pounds, and he wasn't used as a pass catcher. You want to get into open space in the NFL, you need to be able to catch those screen balls,
run some routes.
It worries me. It really does, because C.J. Spiller is kind of who I would compare to Ronald Jones, from a guy that you just every single play you wanted to see C.J. Spiller get into space, get through the line, find a hole, and you didn't get to see it enough at the NFL level to get sustained production, fantasy-wise.
Right.
I think he's a great compliment to a team regardless of whether he ends up being a 3-down type of back in the NFL. But there are concerns there for me. I'd love to see him find the right fit and see what he has, but I am more concerned about Ronald Jones now than I was 2 months ago.
When he didn't have a huge hole, he basically played like a power back, and he'd run right into these lines. Right. He's 205 pounds. He doesn't move anybody.
Yeah.
All right, my least favorite of the hyped running backs, John Kelly.
Your least favorite?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, them fighting words.
Yeah.
I love
John Kelly, who's supposed to be a bruising back that runs through the defense, bench press 15. 15 reps on the bench press.
Yeah, I don't care about the bench press.
15 reps.
I've watched him.
4-1 at Tennessee in his senior year. Never ran for 1,000 yards. Yes, he caught the ball. But I think he is one of those players that if I had to categorize bust potential for where he's drafted, I'm not a big John Kelly fan myself.
For me, it's John Kelly's a player, like I was talking about earlier, where watching him, his film, I love John Kelly. But I don't know if the NFL is going to have the same affinity for John Kelly. I think he plays way bigger than his actual size. He is a tough dude.
That's funny you say
that. That's going to hurt, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I will say this.
If you're 215, it don't matter if you play bigger than your size. That just means you get hurt easier in the NFL.
I will say this. I'm looking at my notes, and in my notes under the Kentucky game, I have he runs bigger than 215, looks smaller than 215. So it's exactly what you're saying.
But he doesn't just try to run through people. He is slippery. I have one of my notes is as noting that he was a very smart runner at changing his speeds. He still initiates contact, but his he's doing it to a point where he's not trying to run you over, but he's trying to create the leverage in the hit and keep his balance, and his balance is sensational.
All right, I want to real quick, just because I think it goes with John Kelly, skip my favorite prospect in the entire draft real quick and talk about Kerryon Johnson, because the way that I see John Kelly and Kerryon Johnson, this might sound really weird because they're very different stylistically runners, but I see them in the exact same boat. They're extremely well-rounded. They can do absolutely anything on the field. They're great pass catchers. They'll run up the middle. They'll run to the side. They can do it all, but they're not extraordinary talents when it comes to athleticism. They don't pop off, the charts at the combine. And I think these two guys are the quintessential, like John Kelly, Kerryon Johnson. Those are the two guys that I'm watching more than where if they go in the 5th, 6th round, they're dead to me.
I say they're back. They'll be drafted as backups if they go in the 5th, 6th round.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then they're just not even going to be on my radar. But if some team says, "Look, I really like this well-rounded approach, and he could work in our system," and comes up and trades up into the 3rd to get him, then one of those two guys will be very high.
We can't move on to wide receivers without letting you talk about Rashaad Penny.
Oh!
Yeah, you cannot move. Jason,
He only rushed for 2,248 yards, guys. He only averaged 7.8 a carry and 7.5 a carry his last 2 years at San Diego State.
Oh, man.
A Midwest Conference team. So what do we think? Mike, are you with Jason on this Penny train?
I would say I'm probably
Lil Penny?
Well, Jason's conducting this train. I mean, he is the one shoveling the coal into the furnace. I'm riding, in that first class. The first class box train. I can't possibly drive it, but I see
You see why people are buying a ticket?
Yes, he is a very sneaky runner of hiding behind his blockers, forcing defenders to overcommit. His burst is incredible. He's a higher level athlete. The competition, it scares me though. And on top of that, you saw a year ago, Donnell Pumphrey
pronounced with the
pronounced with an Humphrey be one of the most productive running backs in NCAA history. So that's where I have to just sit back in the train. I cannot drive it.
Sure, and that makes complete sense. A lot of people worry about the competition, the production of the system, because you did see that with Pumphrey. I think there's the biggest, most monumental difference is that Donnell Pumphrey was a tiny thimble of a man, and Rashaad Penny is 5'11", 220, runs a 4.46. He is an NFL prototypical back. I saw enough in the receptions he had to say he is good at receiving. I think his receiving skills will be able to he'll be capable enough. But as a runner, he is everything that I look for as far as shifty, inside, outside. I have notes here that just say dropped my jaw, things like that. And granted, lower competition, but he was involved in special teams and he was electric in every time he touched the ball. Other teams, I mean, if you go and watch like the Boise State game, one of his worst games, you just see that other team said, we're playing no safeties. It's goal line when you're on your 20 because that was their only weapon. And he was just, I really do. Rashaad Penny's my favorite guy that I'll be rooting for to go high in the draft. If he falls below the 3rd round, I'm going to cry.
All right, we'll talk about more players. You guys can pick out maybe on the Thursday show we'll pick out kind of a sleeper candidate.
Fair.
But let's go ahead and talk wide receivers, and we would not talk wide receivers without Matt Harmon, the wide receiver guru, coming on the show chatting with us. So let's do that now.
Wide receivers.
The fantasy footballers are extremely excited to bring on good friend of the show, great friend of the podcast, Mr. Matt Harmon from NFL.com, who's lately been blowing up your television screens as well, getting some of that handsome airtime. Jason Moore, I know he's looking at me, and I know that he appreciates it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Harmon, you're so handsome. Thanks for coming on the show.
Well, now I'm instantly regretting it because I feel embarrassed.
But, of course, Foot Clan, Harmon from the Ultimate Draft Kit, and he brought his reception perception or I should say we both have added in there, and he's given you great breakdowns of wide receivers and their skill, talking rookies. And in the Ultimate Draft Kit, that's where you can find the exclusive veteran breakdown of our top 50 wide receivers. But today we're going to be talking about rookies, and I'm sure Matt's making the circuit around the podcast area, so of course he had to stop in at home base with the Fantasy Footballers. Matt, how are you doing? I've been talking a lot about you, and you are not talking at all.
No, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm used to. I just try to stay quiet. But no, honestly, thank you guys so much for having me. Yeah, it's like, I mean, friend of the show. I should be like best friend of the show.
Oh,
like
you are the BFF. PFF.
Like second cousin of the show, maybe even. I don't know, something like that. Like pretty close relative of the show. But yeah, no, it's a fun rookie class to talk about. I know for your listeners, you know, don't worry, we're not going to go into like the 30th guy that's going to be a UDFA that's never going to matter ever. But like looking at this class is really fascinating, especially because I think so much for fantasy owners, it's going to be about fit. And that's what I think spending like the last 4 or 5 years with reception perception, I think that's really what it's best at, is showing us where these guys can fit and what they might do well at the NFL level. So I think that'll be a productive conversation for your listeners to dive into.
We're going to try and hit on some of these rookies so that people, when they're watching the draft, they are paying attention and go, oh, that's a name that was highlighted. So let's start. I know you're not really a rankings type of guy, Matt, but so we'll just start with your favorite wide receiver in this class. Who are you looking at?
Yeah, the rankings discussion is fascinating this year too, because honestly, there's not a lot of separation between like who you would even like when I'm sitting here talking to myself, like because I don't have anything else to do, like who would I rank number 1 versus who would I rank number 10? There's not a lot of separation between those guys. Like it's a really close class just all the way here with some of the guys we're going to talk about today. I think probably my favorite guy, I don't know, again, if I'd rank him number 1, is probably DJ Moore, who I know a lot of
That's
of
my man.
Like.
That's my man. Yes.
I know you were excited about him, Mike, when I posted the perception. And I think, you know, he's really indicative of what I think about this entire draft class, which is that there's not a clear, you know, cut number 1 receiver. But then again, there's very few of those guys in the NFL right now today, if you think about it. I mean, I did this exercise on Twitter the other day, just, you know, getting people's feedback. Like, who would you consider a true number 1 receiver in the NFL? I felt like it got to about 8 names before, like, we were pushing it. But so DJ Moore, to me, I don't know that I think he's going to be like an elite number 1 receiver in the NFL, but he really fits to me in the mold of like a Golden Tate type of player. Wins on those short to intermediate routes and creates a lot of layup throws for whichever quarterback he ends up playing with. So I expect him to go off the board in round 1. And be a really productive player for a long time that helps bring some of those easier completions for a quarterback.
Yeah, I know he is an athletic freak. He blows up Mike's rookie model, and
yeah, my computer caught fire when I put DJ Moore's market share in there.
Yeah, let's talk about a guy that he doesn't blow up a lot of people's combine models or the age model, but is for, you know, a lot of people the number 1 wide receiver in this draft. Calvin Ridley. You watched the All-22 film that you have exclusive access to. So lucky. You know, what did you see? Is he worth that? Is he that good to be in the conversation of, yeah, he might be the best wide receiver in this class, or is he overrated?
I definitely think you can have him in the conversation for the best receiver in the class. It's important to remember that, like, coming into this process, it was kind of, before the combine and everything like that, it was widely regarded by a lot of, you know, what you would call like big media draft analysts that like he was the best wide receiver in the class, and there was no discussion to be had about it. But even before the combine, which you mentioned, he really shanked it. Obviously, he had a good 40, but his jumps and everything like that, he tested out, I think, like as a 7th percentile spark athlete. So, you know, before that, even though, just off reception perception, I didn't think it should be like a clear cut, you know, no way. I mean, absolutely, he's the number 1 receiver in the class. I think he's really good. He wins as a route runner. I think reception perception shows that really well. Good scores against zone. Actually has the best score against zone coverage that I've ever charted over the last 3 draft classes, and a really solid marks against man coverage too. And really across the route tree, other than just on the straight 9 route, he has really good separation scores. So I think he's that classic, really refined route runner, which is going to be important because I think craft and technique is how he's going to have to win at the NFL level, because he's not that supreme athlete maybe. But to me, I still think he's just a number 2 receiver, like a flanker that you play on the outside occasionally and move into the slot. I see him, as a Greg Jennings type of player. But when I think about his career in the NFL, I think it's really going to be similar to like an Amari Cooper type of player. It's an easy comparison to make because they went to the same school. But what I mean by that is not that they play the same way, but that, we're sitting here like year 4 right now with Amari Cooper kind of like, okay, like, what else? Like, when are we going to take the next step sort of thing? Because I don't know that he's proven to be a true number 1 receiver. But the good thing for Ridley is I don't think he's coming in with those expectations. So good player, but, definitely not the clear-cut number 1.
Maybe they don't take their step until they're age 24, since they're basically almost the same age.
Right. Good thing Ridley's
insane.
Already coming in ahead of that.
I really liked Ridley. I did. I see him more as like a Sterling Shepard type comp to me, in the sense that just a really good technician coming out, good hands. But I do like him.
A wide receiver with at least the physical build of a number 1, 6'3", 218, I'll take it. Unfortunately, the 4.54 is not that number 1 wide receiver speed that you're hoping for, but he's already he's drawn some links to the Dallas Cowboys, but that's because they just cut their wide receiver and their core could use some help. But Courtland Sutton is allegedly being linked to the Dallas Cowboys. Would you like that fit, Matt, and what are your overall thoughts about Mr. Sutton?
Yeah, Sutton is the most recent reception perception I put up on Friday, and he's a fascinating case because, in this class, as I mentioned, I don't think there is a clear-cut true number 1 receiver, but you're right, Sutton kind of fits that physical mold of that player. But this is why I really like to do what I do with reception perception, is being able to go in and lay everything out. If you look at his separation scores, he was below the 70th percentile against man and zone coverage, which that's fine. Getting with a player with his size, I'm not too that's not something I'm too surprised by. The biggest worry for me is that he really didn't show up well against press coverage. You didn't see many attempts against it at a lower level of competition, but just a 60% success rate. That's really not what you're looking for. You're looking for that to be a little bit better if you're going to be a true number 1 receiver. And what I think that speaks to is not that Sutton is a bad player, but that he is going to need a lot of seasoning. I think he is a player that might get off to like a slow start in his career unless he lands in a great spot, because I think there just needs to be a little bit more marinating there. I liken him to a player like Demaryius Thomas, who took a little while to get off the map, not just with injuries, but also because he's never been like a technically refined route runner. But what was great about him was that, he had what I would call like a series of trump cards with just how physically gifted he is. And I think Sutton is that way too, with the way he is after the catch, with the way he can win 50-50 balls. If he gets a team that just, much like Thomas, says, hey, like, we know you can't do everything well, but we're going to ask you to do the things that you really do well and just do that over and over and over again. And I think that Sutton is the player that is probably the most landing spot dependent to me. Like, I think we will feel drastically one way if Sutton lands with a team like Jacksonville at the end of the first round. But if he goes to a team like Green Bay in the first or second round, then I think we're obviously going to be really excited about him. And Dallas is kind of somewhere in the middle, I would say, between those two reactions. Like, I don't know that I trust that coaching staff to do the right thing with Sutton, which is, I think, bring him along slowly and not like throw him in as their X receiver on day one. But I don't think it's quite – but I think there's a lot of opportunity there. So it's kind of somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. When I look at him, and I like Sutton, I kind of see I believe, a better version of Laquan Treadwell, which – who knows if he went somewhere. I know that's not a comp you want. Like, I could get me another Laquan Treadwell. But, you just wonder if Treadwell went somewhere where he got the opportunity. Is it because he's not good enough to get the opportunity, or did he not get the opportunity and right. It fell apart? But let's talk, since, I brought up a name that people don't like. Let me share an opinion that people are going to hate.
Put on your fire suit.
Yeah, you're going to want to lower the mask of your
extinguisher.
Your welding mask, because you're not going to like this one. I know you like him, the guy I'm about to bring up. And honestly, I know everybody does. And when I watched the film, I know his stats are good, but when I watched the film, I didn't like anything I saw. Like, my notes they're just not kind, and I don't see how he wins in the NFL. So I'm obviously the outlier. I will totally admit that. I am in the minority, and a lot of people will think I have no idea what I'm talking about, and I probably don't. On this, James Washington, why is he special? I feel like Mason Rudolph made him a good deep field receiver, but I just didn't see anything special about him, and he's, some people's number one.
Yeah, it's really funny that, like you say, and this is what's fun about like watching film and analyzing football is that two people can watch the same thing and come away with vastly different takeaways. Because to me, when I watched Washington and charted out all of his routes, I really came away thinking that he made Mason Rudolph look like a much better deep passer.
Yeah, chicken or the egg.
Right. It's funny that way because to me, what I think makes I don't know if this makes Washington a special player, but what I think his two really special translatable traits are that he wins in confined spaces and wins down the field. And that's really valuable. Those two things are, like I said, rare and valuable. That's good. You want that. I think he shows some potential to win on more routes than just deep patterns and just on contested throws. I do think he shows a little bit of nuance in his routes, a little bit more at the line of scrimmage to release against press coverage. Not a big time conference. I wouldn't be surprised if he just ends up as a deep threat and a guy that just wins contested catches. But I think there's a little bit more there. But even if that's all he is, like, so what? Those are two really valuable traits to an NFL team. Like, if you think about Marvin Jones, that's pretty much not all he did, but a lot of what he did this year was win contested catches and win vertically. Never been a guy who just is an elite separator from number one corners, but when he gets good footballs in the high pointing situation, he can go up and win those even if they're down the field. So I think there's a role for James Washington in the NFL. And if he goes to a team with a competent quarterback that is confident throwing into tight windows, he could make some big plays.
I agree with what you're saying. I think Marvin Jones is 6'2", ran a 4.46, and James Washington's 5'11", runs a 4.54. If his specialty is deep, I don't think he's winning deep in the NFL. But to each their own, and I will hopefully, for the sake of most analysts, be proven wrong.
Well, speaking of a guy who can get down the field, the man set the Combine 40 on fire.
Yeah.
Mr. DJ Chark. Where are we going with DJ, Matt? Because last year, John Ross obviously came in and broke the record and then earned his way into a top 10 pick. And this was he misutilized? Was he just bad? We don't know. The jury is still out on John Ross. But DJ Chark ran a 4.34, is actually 6'3", which that's great. I mean, that's a great height for a wide receiver, and you mix in the 4.3, that's outstanding. How do you feel, though, he will translate into the NFL?
Yeah, I think that I don't know. I feel like I've never really had like a strong take on DJ Chark. I think there are people that definitely like him more than me, and apparently the NFL is one of them.
Well, the NFL is going to love him because he's fast. If you're fast, that's all. That's everything.
Absolutely. I mean, you see Daniel Jeremiah mock him in like the first round of his NFL draft, and DJ consistently says that he does the mocks based on what he's hearing, not like what he thinks or what have you. So I think that when you look at Chark and reception perception, he has average or above average success rates on all the three deep routes, the post, the 9, and the corner, which is no surprise, but hardly many good scores beyond that. He's mostly below the average on short to intermediate routes like the slant, the curl, the dig. I mean, I think there's a lot of work there to go beyond just being a deep threat. So to me, I think he's probably going to be your run-of-the-mill vertical threat in the NFL, maybe in the poor man's Mike Wallace type of mold. Because Wallace has had some good years in the NFL, but when he's been in bad spots, there's just been nothing to see there.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of what I saw in film, but you got to love the athleticism there. The last guy I want to bring up, this is my favorite wide receiver coming in this year after, looking at all the wide receivers. Not necessarily the guy I think is going to have the best fantasy production because he's probably going to be a slot guy, and it'll depend on where he lands. But I absolutely love, I had so much fun watching Christian Kirk. I just loved, he had this attitude about him on the field, how he caught the ball, how his routes were all the time. I just see him just destroy guys. But you get the all 22 film. You get to see a little bit more than us. What's your feeling on Christian Kirk?
Yeah, I liked Christian Kirk the more time I spent with this film. The more I went over it, the more games I logged, the more I liked him, because I think it's just about like, what do you expect out of a player? And I agree with you. I think he's going to be a really good long-term slot receiver. And you look at reception perception, definitely below average against man coverage, not great scores against press, but he was mostly beating zone coverage in the middle of the field. And when he was asked to do that, he was great at it. His 86.4% success rate versus coverage against zone cleared the 96th percentile. It's the second best score in this class versus zone coverage against Calvin Ridley. And, having to get the chance to meet Christian Kirk and actually talk to him about his preparation, I asked him specifically, so, hey, when I went in and charted your game film, I see you're really good at beating zone coverage. What goes into that? And he talked about just constant preparation, watching not only just mastering your own assignments, but your entire offense, what your quarterback does, and not to mention you played with multiple quarterbacks too. So there's even more that goes into that. And also just mastering every single defense that you're going to go against each particular team. Then I think that was my biggest takeaway from meeting him and getting a chance to talk to him was this is just really, he's very professional. He's just a total, he sold out to like be a great football player, and I just was really impressed with that preparation aspect that we got to talk about. So I agree with you. He's not like the sexiest prospect or anything, but he's definitely going to be a really good like long-term productive player. So if he goes to a good spot, like a big-time passing game for fantasy owners, I think then he could be a value in coming drafts.
Yeah, he's just a really good wide receiver. He's only 21 years old, and I also love what happened on special teams. I don't know if you watch those because obviously those aren't in reception perception, but he had 5+ punt return touchdowns, kickoff return touchdown, played good in the biggest game. So I'm all in. I pushed my chips in on Christian Kirk. Please, Patriots, draft him.
Oh.
He has some like an absurd. I'm trying to look it up right now on the fly, but like he has an absurdly high like punt return average or something.
Yeah, I think it's like 22 yards.
He was so good when I watched him there, and I know that there's been some studies done that show the correlation between those special teams, success with correlating to what works in the NFL when you get in the open field. So that's another.
He averaged 22 yards a punt return in his career, 24, 21, 19 over the past 3 years. That's like stupid.
It's ludicrous, man.
Unbelievable. Like I know that I'm sure like a bunch of listeners like, what are you talking about? I don't know, but like that is absurdly high for a punt return average, and against like good competition too in the SEC.
And then one more guy I want to talk about here. You did the reception perception article on Equanimeous St. Brown. Sensational sophomore year, almost 1,000 yards, just under 10 touchdowns. Saw his numbers cut nearly in half in yards and touchdowns. Not necessarily all his fault, but St. Brown is tall and he's very fast. How do you see him projecting in the NFL?
Yeah, I really like Equanimeous St. Brown. He's kind of like, to me, I said this really, really early on, that like he reminded me of how I felt about Chris Godwin last year. Not that I liked Godwin more or whatever, but like after watching both of those guys, I was like, I don't understand why these aren't like clear-cut top 5 receivers in this draft, in their respective draft classes. Like I went in and just saw Equanimeous St. Brown creating separation all over the field, whether it was deep, whether it was intermediate, whether it was short. And I think you mentioned that lost production. A lot of that comes down to just bad quarterback play and an offense that was running the ball well because they have a great offensive line with a lot of prospects that are going to be drafted high this year, but not good quarterback play. I think I saw Pat Foreman from Pro Football Focus actually tweet out that like only 50% of his targets were actually catchable. So pretty disgusting there. But yeah, St. Brown kind of checks all the boxes. I mean, he's not like a super refined, crisp, sexy route runner, but he definitely gets good separation because he's very talented physically. Also really good after the catch. He can make plays with the ball in his hand. He can win some 50-50 passes too. I have been comparing him to kind of like the good parts of Martavis Bryant in earlier articles, and I actually was tweeting back and forth with somebody yesterday, a follower. I can't remember. I'm not going to give credit here, but they
don't add him. Don't add him.
Oh yeah. But if you are, like, please remind me, because they said that they would really compare him to, like, Tyrell Williams. I was like, dang, actually, that's perfect, because Martavis is so freaky, and Tyrell Williams is kind of – he's built very, very similar to Equanimeous St. Brown, like kind of tall and lanky, but very smooth after the catch and creates a lot of separation despite the fact that he's not a great route runner, just again because he is such a freaky player. So I think St. Brown is somebody that he's a good sleeper. I think he has a really high ceiling. And if he goes to a good spot, I think not only can he help a team be as a vertical threat, but I think he could develop into like a full field starter.
All right, we're going to give you one wild card here. This is Harmon's choice of a guy that we haven't talked about, maybe Michael Gallup, Anthony Miller, Jordan Lasley. Is there one wide receiver you think that should be highlighted that our listeners can be watching for? Maybe he's a day 2 or day 3 pick that you're excited about his potential.
Yeah, Gallup and Miller are really good ones to mention, especially Miller, who I think he's a top 5 receiver in this class. But I'll say DaeSean Hamilton, another Penn State wide receiver that I really like. He's just a lot like Chris Godwin. They couldn't be like more different players in terms of how they were deployed. Godwin was like almost strictly a perimeter receiver his final year of college, whereas DaeSean Hamilton was almost strictly a slot receiver his final year of college. But both of those guys, while they're very different in that way, they're very similar in the way they run routes and score well in reception perception. DaeSean Hamilton has the best success rate versus man coverage in this class. He has the best success rate versus press coverage in this class because he actually saw a pretty decent amount of press attempts despite the fact that he lined up inside. He's just a really good, smooth overall route runner, really technically refined. And, this might matter to your listeners, especially thinking about early fantasy production. I know the wide receiver classes have kind of not produced a lot of guys, big-time studs for fantasy the last couple of years. But if you look at the guys who have translated well, they've been receivers who have ended up as big slots, whether it's Juju Smith-Schuster or Cooper Kupp last year, or these technically refined route runners like Michael Thomas and Sterling Shepard in a class of a bunch of guys who haven't done much in that 2016 year. Shepard and Thomas were easily, I think, the 2 most professional route runners in this class, and those are the guys who have produced early. So Hamilton is one of those guys who I think could go in the 3rd round or later, and if he lands in a good spot, could end up being one of the more productive receivers in this class, again, because I think he's a craftsman and he can win on the inside with some pretty solid size.
If you want more from Matt Harmon, check out thefantasyfootballers.com for all the reception, perception, rookie write-ups, and, of course, in the Ultimate Draft Kit, he's going to be breaking down our top 50 wide receivers. You can follow him on Twitter. What's it, Matt? It's at Matt Harmon _boy.
It is BYB. It's like I have like an ex's name tattooed on myself because I can't take it off because then I won't be verified.
Oh, that would be terrible. Only losers are unverified.
Yeah, no. That
is also true.
I have to leave the BYB.
All right, thanks, Matt. Always good having you on, and we'll see you around.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
All right, let's take a couple minutes. We're going to talk quarterbacks. We're going to talk tight ends. Early Thursday, we'll talk about best possible fits for these guys. But let's take a couple minutes, jump in the mailbag, answer some listener questions.
Mailbag.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for the draft.
Yes.
Have we haven't even ordered the food yet. This is a problem.
Speaking of food, I would be remiss if I do not give the draft day dip recipe. The Foot Clan will be very upset.
You have
with
an
me
obligation.
An annual tradition.
because, fellas, it's super easy. The best draft day dip you can make. Here's all you need. You need 1 block of Philly cream cheese. Mm-hmm. You need a ½ pound of sweet Italian sausage. Mm-hmm. You brown it. And then you need 1 can of Rotel mild. You throw those 3 things into a slow cooker, into a crock pot, and you have the best sausage dip you've ever had.
You had me at block of cream cheese.
Here's what you do. You melt down cream cheese.
Into a bathtub, and you get in it.
That's how you watch the draft. I mean, that's all right.
I won't be coming in next week talking about how much weight I lost.
Your birthday's coming up, too. You better watch yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, treat yourself.
Oh, my gosh. Or you're gonna go Tolbert before you know it. All right. Hey, if you have a question for the show, go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Click the Submit a Question button or dial our voicemail hotline, 302-464-TFFB. We're going to kick it off with a voicemail.
What's up, ballers? This is Sean from Boston. Longtime listener of the show, and I've turned many family and friends into hashtag FootClan members.
Nice.
My brother, also a listener, created a league this past season, and I took him down in the inaugural championship for the FootClan title.
Nice.
It's almost going to be May, and as the commissioner, he has yet to deliver my trophy, which all of our league members kicked in to purchase. I'm asking you to please help me publicly shame him with a horn. I believe you guys are my last resort. Thanks for everything you do.
We can definitely do that.
Did we get a name?
That's what I was just wondering. Did we get a name?
I didn't hear a name.
Oh, man.
I didn't hear a name either. Brooks, did you hear a name?
Nah.
Yeah, well,
All
that's
right,
good
brother.
because he shouldn't even get a name.
Unbelievable. It's gonna be May.
It's gonna be May.
A little
I'm so thankful that was like the first time you guys even forced that on me.
little icing. I am taking the wife to JT in May.
What?
Yes,
Are you really?
I am, and it's going to be.
May.
Are you going to keep screaming out like, dude, it's going to be May?
Yes, I am. I am with
Oh
my I love
gosh.
JT T-shirt.
I was going to say with your, yeah.
I'm ready
His
to go.
T-shirt
So,
is going to say, what
here's the
month
thing.
is
He
it?
just wants public shame.
Shame on you. The person who won, the rightful owner of this trophy, has been denied half a year or half of the off season with their trophy.
Yeah, at this
shame
point,
on you.
At this point, there's the only gesture that you can make to make up for your failure is to purchase a championship ring for your for the rightful champion
Out
at
of your pocket.
fantasychamps.com.
Yeah,
Oh,
go to
yeah,
fantasychamps.com.
Very
Get him
nice.
a
Get him a ring.
championship ring.
And say, I'm sorry, I'm a
Get
failure.
yourself a loser's trophy.
While
They have 'em
while
there.
you're at it.
While you're at it.
Shame on
Promo
you.
code ballers. Dan has a question from Chicopee, Massachusetts.
Those are delicious.
Sounds like a fun place. We just had some chickapees for lunch in
Hummus.
our hummus. Hey, ballers, love the show. I have a question for Mike. If I offered you the first pick of the first round to shave you to shave your beard, would you do it?
No, because I don't need your pick.
You don't need the pick to win?
No.
So wait. Hold on real quick. Our Dynasty League. In that league, if
Saquon for 10
he
years.
said shave your beard and you get the 101.
I thought this was a redraft question only. If the 101 is available
Oh my
for trade,
gosh.
contact me. Because
I will send you my beard in a Ziploc bag.
Oh, my
we
goodness.
can talk.
All right, final question. Andrew in Orlando. Last year felt like a weird year for quarterbacks. Every quarterback that was good either got injured or endured a down stretch of the season, which he's right? I mean, you got Andrew Luck and Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady ended the year slowly. Regardless of draft value, is there anyone besides Aaron Rodgers you would feel comfortable starting on a weekly basis against any opponent the entire year?
Maybe Russell, but why?
I'd feel comfortable starting Russell. I'd probably feel
Brady.
I'd feel comfortable starting Cam Newton because
Just taking it.
I don't know which week it's going to
Yeah.
be for Cam with the legs, so he'd be in that category for me. I agree with Russell Wilson, but yeah, I mean you do yourself favors if you look at matchups and if you're in that situation.
That's why we draft him late, because then I don't have to plug someone into my quarterback slot and go, I don't feel great about this matchup.
Right, because you drafted him so high that you feel
Yep.
committed. All right, quarterbacks, tight ends, NFL draft preview on the Thursday show, and we'll
I
we'll
can't
have,
wait to
have some
yell
more
at
fun
each
there.
other about Josh Allen.
Oh, you know,
Thursday. Stay tuned.
you're a ping pong ball, Jason. I can't wait. I had you on the Josh Allen train for a little while,
For 5 seconds of film.
and then you back out.
Check out draft.com/ballers. Play some best ball. It's what you got to do right now. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.